Okay, so this one we're doing is the Extrude Exercise 1. I'm going to start new part. Make sure again I'm in inch pound second. And I always start with a sketch. Sketch tab, sketch icon. The orientation and the origin don't matter. I'll just select front. And I'm going to use the line function. And just sketch. You can see again I can snap to a vertical line. This one will be the angled line. Vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. And then on the inference lines here you can see if you snap this, you can actually snap this parallel to that line, and that is a good thing because I can add that sketch relation automatically with that feature. You can see here these two lines are parallel, and all I have to do is do a linear distance and an angle for one of these lines, and then based on the other horizontal and vertical dimensions it will constrain this outside line, as you'll see. So I have a good closed contour. It shows shaded area, so it is a closed contour. I'll immediately go from my line function to my smart dimension. And as mentioned earlier, it's always good to, let's do the overall length first. 4 inches. And from edge to edge, it is 3.5. And then before I go any further, let's dimension this angle. In any line that is not constrained as vertical or horizontal, if I dimension it to a horizontal or vertical line, it will default to an angular value. This is 45. And it folded over itself a little bit here. I'm not that worried about that. I can move those entities. And then there's also a point. In the dimension tool, there is a point to edge dimension. This will constrain this as a horizontal value. On the drawing, it's 1.5. And then just to kind of go through some different dimensioning tools, I can dimension line length here. This is 1 inch. And I can also dimension point to edge. On this, it's 1.750. And then I can also dimension, and this is not the best option for this, but I can dimension point to point. And this actually, if you do this, it won't necessarily constrain the value or the dimension as vertical or horizontal. As you can see, as I can move this around. But I'll just go ahead and it will do it. It will, if you position the dimension in the extension lines a certain way, then it will dimension correctly. This one would be line length. I can also dimension from, again, like I did before, from a horizontal line to a point. This is 1 inch. This one has to be, I guess it could be line to line, or sometimes I use the term edge to edge. It's more accurate to say line to line because this is sketch entities. If I dimension off of a extrusion edge or face, that would be more accurate as edge to edge in the terminology. This looks pretty good. I'm looking at the dimensions and I think I have everything. If you're, again, this shows underdefined. I can grab this whole thing and move it around. And I just need to constrain this in space. So I'm going to select any point. I'll select this point. Hold Control down with my left hand. Select my part origin. So I have the origin point, and this point 1 is actually where I first started my sketch. I'm going to make these coincident. I'm going to say yes, and you can see this is fully defined. So however many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dimensions, and then coincident to a point on the sketch with the point of the origin, part origin, and I'm good to go. With a fully defined sketch, I'm going to select Features, Extrude, and for this one, not a big difference, I think, for this one. I'm going to select the mid-plane. I think you can get away without using the mid-plane, but it's a good option to use the mid-plane here. Some of the future ones, it's definitely really key that we use the mid-plane, so it's a good practice to get in, extruding it from the mid-plane. The overall would be 3 inches, so it would be 1.5 inches both directions. I'm going to say yes. The preview looks good. Now, based on the default orientation, if I use the isometric view, it looks pretty good. If I were to save a file, I wouldn't save it like this, or in any weird situation, I would almost always save this in the isometric view. It fits the extrusion to the screen, and I would go ahead and save as on the desktop. It's going to be my last name. You should use your last name. Extrusion options. Extrude Exercise 1. And then I'm actually forgot to put also my summary information. I'm grading this. If you do not include this on each assignment, Buechler M, and then the title is Extrude Exercise 1. That's all I need for this. I'll go ahead and save it again. You can see, it might be hard to see, but I've changed this in the summary information. I haven't saved it, so I'll just go ahead and do a save. Now, I have in my design tree, I've got my base sketch, extruded mid-plane 3 inches both directions. So it has my sketch and my extrusion. I'm going to start with a new sketch. Sketch tab, sketch icon on this face. And I'll do it a few different ways. One of the easiest ways, I think, and I don't think the book does this, I'm going to use the center rectangle option, and I'm going to start on the midpoint. So the middle of my rectangle, I select the midpoint of the line, and it will make this coincident. And I'm going to I click the center, and then I click out to the end, and then Smart Dimension, this line length. And if on the drawing, you need to do a little bit of interpretation, but the value between the two through holes is 1.5 inches, and on the right side view of the drawing, near the isometric or the pictorial view, it shows a value of 1.25 times 2. So that applies to the slot. That applies to the slot. So the 1.5 value only applies to one feature, and that's the distance between the two holes.